Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of M365 Voice. My name is Sarah Haase.
And I am Mike Madarani.
I'm Antonio Mayo.
And we are absolutely thrilled to have here with us today Deep Trivedi. Welcome to the podcast, Deep.
Thank you so much. So happy to be here. I've always looked forward to the possibility that I'd be one of the four tiles on your podcast. So this is a great honor to be here, and just a treat for me to have the chance at a conversation with people who are part of the same community that I've recently discovered. So happy to be here. Thank you.
We are happy to have you, and we know that we should just acknowledge you do work in your day job with Antonio. It's a safe space. Mike and I are going to let you say whatever you want, and we'll mute Antonio if he tries to interrupt. Not really. But I got to tell you, Deep, that I have known you for a long time, but I actually think it was so cute. You made my 2025. The first time that you actually came to our M365 Twin Cities event, which was in September, it was absolutely priceless. You were so excited, and your enthusiasm was so incredibly. It was so fun, and being part of that community and being part of the event. I just love your energy when it comes to community.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, it was a pleasure to be there. Heard so many great things about M365 Twin Cities, and just really blown away, Sarah, at the community that you have built. The fact that you get 800 plus people that come out to your events is certainly the high water mark. And we would love to attract crowds of that level. And it's not just that you had people in a room, it's that everyone was contributing in some meaningful ways. To me, that was one of the highlights of any community that I've been a part of. So just really thrilled to be there, and the chance to meet you in person is nice, because it's we live in a connected world where the world is so small because of implements of virtual technology, like a Teams call, and you're easy to find some time with, but the opportunity to be in the Midwest and in your hometown was very special. So thanks for, and then particularly the enthusiasm for me was that it was my very first time speaking professionally in a Microsoft 365 capacity. So you made that dream come true as well. So very grateful to you for that.
I think I just got a lot of credit for things that I did not actually do, but it was lovely to have you, and I'm okay with you giving me credit for things I don't know that I did. But it was so wonderful to meet you. And oddly enough, Antonio, it was very interesting for me because Antonio couldn't make it to that event. I don't remember why, but you couldn't make it for some reason. And so we were just having a good time that Deep was talking about work and different things, and working for you, and was highly complimentary about that.
Well, that's very kind of him. I do want to, Deep, what first attracted you to the Microsoft community? Because Sarah, Mike, and I have been part of it for more years than I want to admit. And you're relatively new to the Microsoft community. And we've seen it go through various waves and different topics of interest and changes and people coming and going over the years. So I'm interested, what first attracted you to kind of become part of this community that we've been part of?
I think for me, the major driver is just a desire to learn. Documentation, reading documentation, watching videos on YouTube, listening to podcasts. Most of the podcasts I listen to actually now are cybersecurity related. And so, I think that where things are different as part of a community, you get to have real conversations face to face, person to person. And I'm always blown away at how even in an area where I feel like I've read enough documentation to like hold my own in a conversation, I just get completely blown away by the subject matter expertise of the people that I'm having a conversation with. And sometimes that can be intimidating, right? So, this idea that like someone's an expert and like someone doesn't really know much about it or is like growing their own
Mhm.
competence, it can create this separation where, people will feel, a little out of place, they're unsure of themselves. And so what attracted me to this community are the very early interactions where that was in fact contrary to my expectation, where everyone was so welcoming, was so willing to share. And yeah, just the chance to be a little bit of a tech geek with other people who are proud to be tech geeks and to have conversations around things that are of personal interest, but there's a practical relationship to those discussions as well, because you get to take it back into your day job, inspired by a new idea, inspired in a way to like explore something further. So I have to say, all of my interactions, Antonio, have been very positive. They've been, welcoming, and it has sort of reminded me of the best parts of community, right? The act of empowering one another to learn, to grow, and to do fun things together. Whether it's a speaker dinner the night before a big event, or the chance encounter at a conference where you have 5 minutes to quickly catch up. So yes, that's that in essence is what has attracted me to the community. But I would say more than attract, it's more along the lines of what drives my interest to remain a part of the community. Because I've been a part of communities, I'm sure all of us have, where you kind of dabble and you realize like maybe that's not your people, and you kind of move on to spaces where you feel a little bit more welcome. But this is a space that I felt quite welcome, and um, I'm very excited to see where my journey goes as far as continued interest.
Love to hear that, because I'm sure all of us, when we first started with the community, it was very overwhelming. Back in the days, I'm not going to say how many years, but social media was not big back then. It wasn't,
Yeah.
I'm not saying it wasn't the same, but I think it was a little bit more, for me, a little bit more overwhelming, not knowing anyone, just stepping into the community and say, okay, I'm going to start this kind of journey, sharing the knowledge. And then obviously develop great relationships. Like the friends we have in the community are closer than sometimes the friends we have in our daily lives.
Right.
In your world, I know you touched on it a bit. It was very welcoming. What was your expectations getting into the community? Was it the same expectations that you have experienced, or was it a little bit different?
I think the key way in which my experience has been different is, so I'm not a native of like computer science or software engineering side of the story. And typically for someone like that who seems to be an outsider coming in, the surface level expectation is that you're going to have deeply technical conversations about configurations and settings and the ramifications of one setting versus another. And so sometimes that can preload this expectation that if you aren't at that level of skill, you're not going to actually find a little bit of a grapple hold in a conversation where you can add value, right? And so I think to me the biggest eye opener in that is that um, there's a true sense of community in the sense that as a large and diverse organism, everyone brings value through their specific aspect of what they specialize in, right? So, Sarah, I know the conversations that you and I have had are very much along the domain of organizational change management, strategy and adoption, helping technology leaders think more broadly than just a configuration or a setting to deploy a particular workload, right? And so, Mike, I think that that's been different, and in a positive way, because if I hadn't noticed that early, I probably would have like recoiled and realized that I needed to more significantly build on my technical knowledge. So yeah, and I think that that has also catalyzed this continued desire to like get more deeply technical, right? Is how sort of welcoming it's been. So I can kind of find my own space, and I can more clearly recognize the corners of the community where I can add distinct value.
I love that. It is such a welcoming space. And when we say the community, I always think it's a good idea to define what we mean by that. But it used to be, for me, it grew out of definitely the SharePoint space, but now really being about M365 as a whole. I think that I have found a couple of themes that have emerged that I have learned about the community, or adjectives that I've used to describe it. I'm interested, Deep, and maybe we can go around and talk about adjectives that we've used, that we would all use to describe the community. If you were going to describe it to someone who is unfamiliar, Deep, what are some of the adjectives that you'd use to describe the community?
I would say the one that jumps out is hospitable, encouraging, fostering. Yeah, there's been a genuine openness that I felt in the M365 community, whether that's here in Canada or as my travels have taken me to cities across the US. There's certainly a common thread, and that willingness to kind of welcome, invite, and to continue fostering those connections has been an example that kind of stands out to me.
I think this is bang on, what you said, the description of it, because it has how we are in terms of sharing the knowledge, loving new members, because we've all gone through it, right? We learn from others, we share the knowledge, and we love to bring new blood into the community. So very, very bang on description to it. Love it.
Mm-hmm.
I like what you suggested, Sarah, about going around the room or around the team's call on adjectives. So what adjective would you use?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I would say huggy.
Huggy.
We are an extremely hug-enriched community.
Yes, this is true.
The long goodbye, hugs hello, hugs goodbye, hugs I'll see you in 15 minutes. So we are that way, but I think that it's very interesting, and I don't know. I think open, but also engaging. People in this community meet each other in both a professional way, with an emphasis, as you said, deep into educating others, but we also tend to be very willing to engage in our true selves. A lot of my very best friends in the world, and two of them are, Antonio and Mike on the call, and Deep, I look forward to being able to spend more time with you so I can say the same about you. But Mike and Antonio are two of the closest friends that I have and will ever have. And the privilege of getting to know them through this community, but that is not a unique state, right? The level and depth of the connections in the community that people offer is really touching.
Agreed.
Mike?
There's so many, but I'll stick with one. I would say we are one big family-oriented community. This is how we look at each other. Of course, if you have a one big family with many, many, many heads, many cousins, you're going to have the close family members together all the time. But we're all just one big family, and that's how I look at it in terms of like exactly what Sarah had mentioned. When you are in a family and that you're close to each other, you always make plans together. We always sometimes, a lot of us will see if we're going to submit to the same M365 event, and we plan the travels to arrive on the same day so we can plan things and leave on the same day. And during this day, we plan some activities. And at the same time, we rely on each other for advices and technical advices in our day-to-day work. So yes, I look at it as a big family, relying on each other, supporting each other, and having fun together as well.
Mm-hmm. How much scarier would it be if, for me, Deep, you mentioned like different people in the community have different brands or hallmarks of what you think of them. And I got to say, I've been in this community a long time, like Mike, like Antonio. And I've probably gone through several iterations of kind of those focus areas, right? When I think about where I started versus where I am now, certainly without the support of Antonio, you Deep, David Drever, Joanne Klein, and others, I never would have gotten into the Microsoft purview and security and compliance space and felt so safe to do so, even in terms of speaking, because the willingness of people to say, oh, I'll co-present with you. And it really helps you to lean into a topic that may not be where you originated, but you feel more secure that someone else is going to be there to travel along that road with you, I think is unique.
Agreed.
Couldn't agree more. And you've name dropped two of a long list of my favorite people. David Drever is somebody who I have established a very close relationship with over the last 2.5 years. On many of my conference speaking engagements, David has been a co-presenter, and I completely resonate with what you shared. We think we work well off of one another. We complement one another. He brings a completely different skill set and expertise to the conversation, and he, it's been very helpful for him to remind me that I bring something different that's equally valuable, right? And in fact, at M365 Twin Cities, we actually had a small room, and if you had told me that room would be full, I would have said I don't believe you. Nonetheless, that not only was that room full, there were people sitting on the floor, there were people like looking out, looking into the room from the outside, and Dave was right there alongside myself and Anna, who we were the three of us were co-presenting that session. So and Joanne Klein, I just love, and every time I'm in Joanne's vicinity, it just feels, she's a great reflection of what I feel is the best parts of this community. And I wish in a way that they were on this call as well, because I'd love to ask them the question of their adjectives to describe the community. But I am curious on Antonio's response to that as well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, similar to what you three shared, I would say the community has been for me very welcoming, inclusive, which I think is still is not a bad word to say. I think the notion of these people that you have learned from before you become part of it, and then get to meet as you kind of enter this community, and just how welcoming they are and bring you into the fold and invite you to things, even if it's a dinner or a session, or are very open to talking to you about some technical topic, has been, I find, unique for this particular community, and a very positive thing, right? Like I remember my early MVP summits, where the very first one I went to, I didn't know anybody. And you're in this big room. I was a SharePoint MVP at the time. That's kind of, I think we all were. And you're in this big room with SharePoint MVPs. And like across the room is, Waldeck and Rodrigo and Shane and Todd Clint, and people that, you've been reading their blogs and watching their podcasts. And you're like, I'm in the same room as these people. And then they invite you out to something, or they're very happy to chat with you. That welcoming has been a great, that's the adjective that resonates most with me. I remember going at one of the SharePoint conferences early on. There was an MVP breakfast that the Microsoft team hosted. And we went, I showed up a little bit late, and I happened to sit beside Todd Clint, and I'm like, holy shit, I'm beside Todd Clint. He just came and sat down beside me, and we started chatting. And I had been watching he and Shane's podcasts back in the day, like a long time ago. And these two guys that knew a ton about SharePoint, and he was just so great to talk to. So that welcoming feeling, and even Sarah and Mike, when I first met you two, and we just started chatting, and you all kind of invited me to things, or we just kind of came up with this idea for this podcast. That feeling is unique to this Microsoft community, I find, and just that's the adjective I would use.
I love that. I love it when he says we came up with the idea for the podcast. It's so gracious and generous, because they came up with an idea for a podcast, and then Sarah just inserted herself in the middle of it. And they're like, great.
Sarah has good elbows.
I do.
And they were welcoming to prove the point, right?
Yeah. So, Deep, what do you have in terms of 2026? We're still early in 2026. Do you have, ideas, goals, trajectory? Where do you see yourself? Where do you want to invest and in the community this year?
It's a great question. So I think that, my blog that gets read by like 7 people who I say just genuinely love me, and I'm hoping that I'm not letting them down on a regular basis. So I very much intend to continue my thought leadership blog. It's focused on Microsoft 365, security and compliance. Typically my target audience is C-suite, like CIOs, CISOs, that are trying to either implement or deploy Microsoft 365 capabilities, or they're trying to make better use of the technologies and the capabilities that are implemented at their enterprise orgs, right? So I try to add value in that kind of sweet spot of like being, like between like strategy and like tactical implementation or configuration. So I very much intend to continue that trajectory with my thought leadership blog. An increased focus on speaking engagements. I had a super hectic fall. I had like 7 speaking engagements in 9 weeks, and I went from like 0. Like your conference was like the starting blocks for a very hectic fall. And so I like to be a little bit better planned, let's say. Maybe, I do a better amount of coordination with the people that I've met and have a growing admiration for, so that, we can put in for the same conferences. Because I very much agree that I think what makes that type of involvement extra special is not just the chance to speak at conferences, not just the chance to interact with people who are interested in this kind of subject matter, but the opportunity to have like non-work conversations, non-technology conversations. Yeah, so more blogging, more speaking, and I've stopped answering the question on where I see myself by a certain amount of time. I'm by training, I'm a cancer physiologist, and I moved into healthcare technology, and then I moved into technology, and then I moved into organizational change management, and then into consulting. And so I couldn't even answer where I'm going to be 3 or 5 years from now, quite frankly. But for the rest of this year, I think it would give me immense satisfaction if I can just continue on the momentum that I feel that I've started to build on a personal level. But it is, to me, Sarah, it's not like I'm focused on what I want to do as sort of like a task list. I'm more inspired by just like meeting people, having conversations about this. And I think for the first time in a very long time for me, the chance to be like a technology nerd amongst technology nerds is just like really inspiring to me, and that kind of like juices me up and keeps me going. So I'm looking forward to interactions at that level as well.
So are you ready to take on that journey? This is awesome, actually, goals that you have for 2026. And kudos on doing so many events in 9 weeks. I don't think many of us, and as a whole community, have done that many in a short period of time. So it's impressive. It's good for you. So are you ready to take on? So usually what happens, and it's a typical in our community, that when you get involved in the community and now you start building your actual personal profile as an expert in this community, from a blogging or speaking and sharing the knowledge, you keep setting higher and higher expectations, whatever those expectations are. It's very demanding. So what's your thought on that? Are you ready to take on that long journey to build up that pressure that we put on ourselves?
Yeah, so that's the one part that is quite intimidating, right? It is like, is stepping into the space that Antonio has owned for a decade, that Sarah has owned for a decade, that Mike Matarani has owned for a decade, is really intimidating if I try to conceptualize the opportunity in that way, right? For me, I want to try to simplify that and say I'm going to take it one step at a time. If this is a journey of 1,000 miles, perhaps I've completed mile 3 or 4, right? And I'm focused on mile 5. And so, yeah, and truthfully, I don't know if this is a self-preservation instinct, but I genuinely can't see myself stepping into like Antonio's shoes, right? Because like I just think that's not a healthy way of approaching what this opportunity would look like for me.
Nice.
I'm convinced Antonio doesn't sleep, or there's 3 of him. I'm not, I haven't seen all 3 Antonios in the same room to be able to verify this for fact. But yeah, so like I'm just, I think I'm conscientious that I'm responsible to define and project my personal brand, and I'm very encouraged that there's a lot of support available, and I just have to find the courage within me to actually ask for assistance. And I've been very pleasantly surprised at how willing people are to lend a hand, to provide some words of encouragement, to broker a conversation with someone that can kind of make a material difference to what my next opportunity or next step in this journey would look like.
We won't even comment, Antonio, about any of what he said. I'm just not going to say anything because you won't want me to respond. But Deep, I want to say that one of the things that we didn't describe about this community is that when we find people that are truly treasures, and I mean that in terms of the way that they think about technology and the way that they think about the human experience of technology, that's really special. And that's something that I got when I met with you and that we have had the opportunity to discuss. And then you personally, we tend to not like to let go of the people that we like the best. So I think you're going to be here for a long time because I don't think we're interested in having you go away.
Very kind words. I appreciate you saying that, Sarah. Thank you.
Now, Deep, you talked a little bit about some of the things you have coming up. Do you have any specific events that you're going to be at in the near future?
Yes. So in precisely 2 weeks, I will be at M365 Miami. So this is Emily Mancini's conference, and Mike, I think you're speaking as well.
Yeah, I love that community. I'll be there.
Yeah, so I've heard so many wonderful things. Once again, I think the part that I think for people that don't travel much, I've had the privilege of traveling the world, so this part of this experience doesn't feel so new to me, but I can also see how, if you're someone who hasn't typically had the experience or the opportunity to travel, this community provides that opportunity in a way, right? So in this particular, I've never been to Miami, so I'm super excited to go. I've heard so many wonderful things about Miami. I've seen Miami depicted on, TV shows and movies. And so I'm looking forward to being there. Once again, going to be co-presenting with David Drever and with Anna Bourdieu as well. Yeah, and so we're looking forward to that. And yes, so there's a number of events that are coming up, Antonio, and yeah, just excited for all of them.
Looking forward to it. Thank you so much, Deep, for joining us today. We love being able to have that community conversation and definitely want to have you back to continue talking about that, and appreciate all of your help giving people ideas on how to become involved in the community and what it feels like.
Appreciate that. Thank you so much. This has been wonderful.
So
Awesome.
thank you everyone for joining us, and we will see you on the next episode.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Thanks, Steve.
Bye-bye.